19.98 of the Wisconsin State Statutes. Everybody should have last month's meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve or any need for correction?
A motion to approve.
Motion approved by Nicole.
Everybody's worried about their microphone.
Thanks for getting us,
Second.
thanks for getting us started. Thank you, Kate, for the second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Monthly staff reports, Randy.
I apologize, I didn't really get a chance to do a deep dive as I do every other month. At a quick glance that I did do, we had been ahead in most categories each month. The month of April, which we're looking at here, has leveled off a little bit as far as being ahead from the pace of 22. Some of that is we had more programs in certain areas going on in 22. And then some more offerings in adult fitness, for example. And then once again, our memberships are down once again from April of 22.
Any specific questions for Randy or the supervisors? All right, then. Communication and correspondence. First up, the VFW Post flagpole donation.
So I'd like to thank the VFW Post as we've been working with Ron Schnorberg. The VFW Post is donating $4,500 towards installing a flagpole at Independence Park. We're actually utilizing old pole that we have. I say old, but it's in great condition, and that pole came from...
The top of City Hall. That was one that flew on City Hall. So it's as old as the remodeling project was.
Thank you, Brian. So we'll be utilizing that flagpole. There is a location picture in your packet. Staff was working hard to find a prominent spot for this, but we were limited by the landfill, of course, and then the trench work that is needed to get power to the light. Ron had some very good suggestions so the flag could be seen throughout the park. We chose the location we did that everybody driving into the park will at least drive by the flag. And we did check with Ron and the VFW, and they agreed on that spot. So we'd like to thank them for that donation.
Thank you, guys. And then U.S. Tennis Association's venue service grant.
We have applied for and received $5,000 in a USTA grant towards replacing the tennis backboard at Willowbrook Park. I believe it was last month I was here where the WTA,
Wisconsin Tennis
Thank you.
Association.
We also got a grant for $750 from them. So the total project will cost an estimated about $12,000. And with other donations we have received, another one I'm finalizing, this project will be completely funded sans tax dollars, except for the labor of the crew that will be doing the installation of the tennis backboard. So, and then I'd like to make one more mention here. My staff has been receiving many calls about tree issues in the parks, mainly from city property, park property that's abutting home property. And I've received 2 phone calls from individuals after the fact thanking us for our prompt response, the politeness and the work of the crew. So I just want to make sure I mention that I know we probably got about a dozen calls on trees, and we got a nice response. People don't need to call. A lot of times that's just expected of city workers, so it's always appreciated when we get that nod, and I'm pretty sure I let the staff know. Okay. So I wanted to throw that in there as well.
Nice.
Good stuff, Randy. No appearances or public comments, no old business. Under new business administration, we have the 2024 to 28 capital improvement program.
So within your packet, more or less wrote a letter to the commission. It's basically a review of the CIP process. I would be lying if I didn't take a lot of Mike Herman's legwork from previous years and put that in there, but I did try to edit it and put it in my own words. We also included our budget sheets along for this year's process. We are still in the early stages of reviewing and updating projects. You can see some work has already been done. For example, the skid loader change, which we had talked about a couple months back. So with that, I also included some items coming up for consideration in our 5-year court plan. So next year would include our 5-year court plan. That is due to be renewed next year. So that'll be an automatic item we'll include. Some other topics that I've been working on, skate park equipment updates. I've actually had many conversations with Sean Happy, who I believe was a part of the original fundraising for the skate park when it was originally constructed. He now has, I believe at that time he had children involved, now he has grandchildren that are involved. And for those of you that know Sean, when he gets involved with the project, he's very passionate about it. So I've received many phone calls, and I appreciate it. That keeps it in my consciousness. So he's going around working with these kids to set up fundraisers. He's already reaching out to local businesses about donations. So this will be something that will appear somewhere within the 5-year. Other things, prominently a standalone pickleball court, which we'll talk about probably a little later when we talk about park tour. I feel that's a priority. So overall, the CIP project sheets plans are finalized and submitted and due by July 7th. Please, if you haven't taken the time, review those. Let me know what questions you have, suggestions of things you've seen around the city and our parks that you'd like to see mentioned or focused on. The 24 operational budget, we've also received that paperwork. Have not started working on that yet. That's due a couple of weeks later than the CIP on July 21st. If any commissioner has any specific operation requests that will impact our budget, please contact me. Obviously prior to the 21st, give me a couple of weeks. So yeah.
You all have the CIP packet. Any specific questions or comments? Joel?
The library exterior, that's falling underneath this one here, underneath Parks and Recs?
So we, as our department oversees buildings,
Okay.
so that falls underneath us. Not necessarily something this body has a say in, more or less, but as I mentioned in the letter, it's good that Commission has a good understanding of our overall scope of that our department does, of the 5 departments: parks, recreation, aquatics, taxi, and buildings,
Okay.
which we oversee.
Yeah, because I just know the resurfacing of the wood in the building was brought up a couple of years ago in council and was given the charge that we're not, I think it was when they were doing some other work with it, and we'd have to finish it, that when we go and do this, it better be something a little bit more maintenance-free than that. So we just got to make sure that that's all part of this program. I know it's a hefty number, but this is like a reoccurring thing that I know the council was stern about last time. That was the last time they're going to be able to approve any kind of.
I agree with you, Joe. Those are large numbers. Brian and myself have been talking with Jennifer over at the library. All those projects are funded through the library reserve fund. Big numbers there, so we've asked her to order those in priority. She's asked us to do the same, which we've had Brian do, which she's taken that to her board. and that's where we're at with that, so.
No, I just because I saw it in there, and I just thought I'd bring it up because I know that's going to be a contention when
Sure.
council sits down and looks at the overall CIP budget and plan, so.
Understood.
Yep.
Any other projects that caught your eye?
But
Ken? Ken?
Look, I just wanted to, off of Joe's point, yeah, for library siding, I said this last year, I knew this was for '24, and I'll say it again this year. Those numbers are astounding for a building that's not even 12 years old. Literally astounding. I mean, that is basically $650,000. And I mean, everything else you look at here, absolutely, boilerplate, everything makes sense, the timelines make sense, they have to be done, things like that. This one just, boy, it's, for the taxpayers, they should really understand the cost of maintaining that building. It's really eye-opening.
Yeah, and just to keep us on task, that this body doesn't,
No, I understand
Yep,
that, but I
but,
think people need to understand, what the cost is to maintain that, and they don't, and you don't see that, and I'm seeing it today again. So I'm just saying that, that folks understand that. No, I understand, I don't have any say in that, Randy, which is unfortunate, but.
we haven't updated those numbers, but I doubt they got any smaller.
Oh, I would agree with you 100%.
There we go.
Randy, you bet. Right.
Dan, did you have something?
yeah, I'm really excited about the Rubicon River Trail. So I think that'll make us the perfect city. It's like one of the main things we're missing. And it says, surveys, community surveys, I know I've filled those out, and that's pretty much the only thing I check. Continue that path.
Absolutely.
And get people off of Highway 60 with their shopping bags, walking home or
Well,
whatever.
and actually, Mike gave me all the paperwork for that study, so if you want it back, I definitely have. get that
Okay,
back
you know where to find me.
Yep, it'll be on your desk tomorrow.
Yeah, and that project I've had, I want to say not quite a handful, but since I've been here, and then 10 months, I've had 2 or 3 people call specifically about the trail, want to know where to get on it, the best place to park and utilize it. So, and one of them was in town, one of them was out of town, just knew about it, and so there is interest out there. And yeah, once it's complete, yeah, definitely a benefit to the city.
Anyone else? All right, Randy, you have your marching orders. We'll move on to rec programs and activities and update on the golf simulator.
You will find a picture of my new friend in your packet. Simulator, I believe last month we did have it in hand. It had arrived. We were able to touch base, and after about 4 different versions of the plan with Foresight, we finally were able to set up a date for the rep to come out. It was supposed to be a day-and-a-half project. He came out last Thursday about midday, and he was able to get it set up with the help of Mike Fritz with our maintenance department. And we are also able to get our training in. So what was supposed to be about a probably 8 to 10 hour job, he was able to get done in, I would say, about 5, maybe 6 hours. Gentleman was great to work with from Foresight. He wasn't strict. There was wiggle room. He answered the questions. He was personable. So I can't say enough about that process. But it is up. I can vouch that it's operational.
Is that why we have the board in front of the window?
It is. It is. Ironically, I had some staff members utilizing it today, and it was having troubles reading the ball. And so I contacted my rep. I said, "You got anything for me?" He goes, "Do you have either a window and or a mirror nearby?" I said, "Well, actually, we have both." So we covered those up, and then that seemed to eliminate the issue we had.
So I understand in the installation too, a lot of the upper ceiling work we thought we'd have to do some more up in the ceiling, a lot more work up there than, obviously, it looks like there's one line of tile that we really had to move and everything else fit without juggling around.
Correct. They were able to install it lower than we anticipated, and you're spot on there, Joe. You see there's one row of tiles that we had to remove to be able to fit it in. So we will be, I'm not sure where we left off, if we were going to replace the tiles or if we were just going to put the tarp in. Do you recall where we left off, Brian?
We're actually going to darken the space above it with just 1/4-inch plywood, and we're going to paint it flat black. And then we're going to see how we progress with maybe some taller people, if we do have an issue with the ceiling and height that it's at, to try to come up with a different plan and making it more solid instead of soft, if that makes sense. If we're just nicking it accidentally, then we can go wood further out and maybe just tone it up a notch from maybe to a gray. I don't know, now that we're seeing some issues with too much light, the windows, I think that's easy to do with just tinting, and the mirrors we can remove. So we just need to start using it and tweak it, but knowing that we're not going to wreck or smash anything. We're going to watch it very closely and see what people's responses are towards it, but just that general area over the top, we do have to close that ceiling up, and we were going to paint it.
Yeah, because I just remember we talked about putting it in, you needed X amount of.
Yeah.
feet.
Yes, it all
We knew we had the
changed.
space above,
So-
we thought we'd have to go and move wires and
Yeah.
pipes and everything else.
Yes.
So,
That apparently
You
doesn't
did
have
to
to.
reconfigure
Yeah.
the room.
so to that, the installer was probably 6'6" himself. And he said, yeah, that's not a problem. It's not going to be an issue. And I said, are you a golfer? He said, no. But today, we did have, I won't name the city employee, Daryl Kranz, who's probably, I want to say, probably 6'3". And he didn't have any issues with his full swing. Hitting the ceiling, if you look at it, that's not the projector, but that's calls it the GC Hawk. So that's what reads your swing, this part in front here. And Daryl didn't have any issues with that. So, yeah, all the fret about the ceiling height was really for naught so far. Now, I don't know if, like you get a former Commissioner Troller in there. So, and that is an invite if he's watching. So, but so the plan from here, Sarah, so it just got installed on Thursday. This is probably the toughest time of year for staff right now as far as being busy. So Sarah and I have yet to sit down and talk about what it would look like for reservations. We are going to utilize city staff as guinea pigs, and it has helped the few that have done it to iron out what our instructions look like. One of the biggest things we're working on right now is what is a time block going to look like. For me, I tried utilizing it. We figured, I was told you can get 18 holes in an hour. I was not able to do that. Daryl was barely able to. Daryl was a much more consistent golfer than I am, where he was hitting straight. And I'll admit that this machine is very accurate. I have a terrible slice. So you think it's great, hey, I get to play Pebble Beach. Well, no, because I'm slicing it into the ocean, which isn't very fun. So I had to find a course that was a little more open. But I've talked to a few people. We're going to eliminate putting, so we have that option. So what happens is you hit it onto the green, and it gives you a putting average. So like if you're within 6 foot, it'll just add 1 putt. Or it gives you a percentage putt is what I noticed today. So like 1.89 or 1.6. And that'll automatically add to your score and eliminating the putting, which on any simulator is not very accurate. Simulators are more for full swings. So
Gives us an opportunity to put a putting green on the other side then.
that is in our plans, 100%. So once we work through this stuff, we'll still utilize city staff as guinea pigs. Once we get to a point where we're comfortable, we'll do a soft opening, and it'll be limited. Right now, I feel like it'll be limited to when we have staff availability. Likely that's not going to be Sarah. Likely that's not going to be Lauren. Right now it's me. Zach has an interest. Zach has a knowledge. Zach's got a pool to run, so I don't know what his availability is. And having done Melanie's job, I know her availability is be limited as well. Probably utilize you, Joe, as we talked. And I feel like it'll be similar to an orientation. Those of you that are average golfers, familiar, if I bring you up there once, maybe twice, show you how to do it, you'll be able to operate it, and that's when our world gets scary, because if I bring someone in like Ken, who's probably familiar with something, he'll have the knowledge to kind of nose around and change some of the settings for himself, which is fine, as long as it isn't the default setting, so. But as you can tell, I've talked for 10 minutes, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it is. It's cool.
All good. All right, let's talk about the summer playground camp next.
So summer playground, we have 5 staff. 2 of them are returning. One of them was an office staff during the school year, so she knows about the rec department. And then one more who is brand new. With those 5 staff, we actually end up being a little bit overstaffed because we did up it to 50 for our max. Currently, we're kind of hovering around 35 to 40 participants. So hopefully, just like last year, the more summer went on, the more kids kind of signed up. So hopefully we kind of see the same thing again this year. So we did go to a training this last weekend in New Berlin. So the staff, most of the staff did get a chance to go. We got to kind of see how other communities run theirs, like day camps and things like that, do some training with behavior management and some games. So that was really useful for the newer staff coming through. And then tomorrow and Friday, we're doing a couple more trainings, just our little group. So.
Thank you, Melanie. And tell us about Cops, Rods, and Reels.
So this is our yearly event that we do with Slinger. Currently, we have 9 from Hartford that are signed up. I have reached out to the police to see how many can come out. I haven't heard an answer yet, but hopefully we can get some to come out and fish with the kids. You know, fishing is a pull for me to not work, so hopefully I can get them to come do it.
All right, adult and youth sports, how about a youth ball report?
So last week was the official big start of youth ball. Last week, Tuesday. So we had this week, and then this last Monday was kind of the end of that week. We've been doing really well. It's been going really well. We still need a few umpires. We still have some holes that direction. Our youth ball coordinator, I've heard from coaches how great she's doing. So Elena, a little shout out for her, but she's been doing great with the umpires, the coaches, the concessions. The umpires are getting used to their games. A lot of them are new, but they are getting used to it. T-ball clinics all went really smoothly, and then concessions have been very busy compared to what it was last year, so that's good too.
Good deal.
And tennis lessons.
So the same tennis instructors from last year are also coming back this year. There are a couple that play. There are 2 players that play on the high school team. So they are coming back again, which is great. This first session, we have 5 in level 1, a full class of level 2 with 12, and 8 in level 3. Unfortunately, we don't have any in level 4, so it looks like we will be canceling that. But we've been pushing it as much as we can, and all the classes do start on Monday.
And youth and Pee Wee basketball.
So those start on Saturday. We have 12 in our Pee Wee class and 19 in our youth class. Once again, we have our usual staff that do it pretty consistently coming back, so that's always good to have the consistent staff come in.
All right, and we'll move on to aquatics and update on vets. Zach?
Yeah, so tomorrow's our first day of the official season. We did have our preseason last weekend, which had pretty good numbers. Saturday we had around 900 people, and Sunday we had about 500 to 600 people. Lots of interest, lots of people asking about summer passes, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But we also had Summer Splash on Friday, which had almost 200 kids there. Great great show up from the kids. Concession stand was selling a lot of food during that event, which is fantastic, and I think all these numbers have a pretty good view at what's in store for the pool this summer.
Excellent. Talk about the swim pass sales.
Yeah, so passes are being sold at a pretty good rate right now. There's 320 that have been sold already. Last year, total, there was 384, so there's still a good chance that we get a couple more sales in there. Just this weekend, with people coming into the pool, we had tons of interest on how to get the pass, and I gave those details, and hopefully a lot of them end up purchasing that at the rec center this week.
And swimming lessons.
Next Monday, it's the mark of our morning hours starting. That includes our first swim lesson session on Monday. Classes are pretty full for the Monday through Thursday session. We do have a Tuesday-Thursday session out there starting this coming Tuesday. There's only one time slot during that. That's looking a little low on attendance, that we might have to cancel those two classes. But the rest of the classes are pretty full, maybe with a kid or two that could still be added. But attendance numbers are looking great for that so far.
Excellent. And changes to the water walk.
Yeah, so the water walk has been a bit of a pain the last couple of years. I think Brian can attest to that. Always disconnecting, and the animals on the water walk seem to wear down a lot. So we did have 3 this year that were really bad.
So the water walk, for those who aren't familiar, that's where we have the floating animals and whatnot.
With the ladder.
Yeah,
With the ladder, yeah, I wanted to clarify
Not the
that.
water
Yeah.
walking.
No, not the water.
Yeah, 'cause there-
Yeah, sorry, I could have.
There was,
clarified
no, because the only reason I said is we had some concern from staff that we were having changes to our water walk, Sarah. So,
Yeah, so it's the little animals that the kids walk across with the ropes. We did have about 3 of them get very worn down and actually started cracking with the weathering, almost to a point where they were sharp on top, and we did not want to put that back in the water. So I think early February, I started looking into it along with Randy, and we looked at direct replacements. They were pretty expensive, and we didn't really have that in the budget. So I looked at alternate options, and we found a pretty good option that kept it under $1,000 to replace all of them. They're just inner tubes with a nice colored covering over them.
Cool.
We got them from Tube Pro Corporation, and they look great out there right now. If you guys have the chance to stop by and see them, they look fantastic. They fit right in, and they add a little more color to the pool.
yeah, one of our concerns, and I think it was Zach's concern too, about it, we didn't want it to look tacky. And I think Zach did a good job. He had initially found something, but then found another version of it, I think, for even cheaper. And yeah, it looks very natural out there. It looks good, colorful. So
Yeah, and like Randy mentioned, I initially was in contact with the company where you had to buy the covering from one, buy the tube from the other, and then we would have had to put it together with maintenance. And then out of nowhere, Tube Pro came in and said, here it is fully put together for cheaper. So we went that route.
Question that. So, just a question on the pool maintenance altogether. How are those, the sun covers, how are those holding up? I know over the years, obviously, they got to be replaced. Are those in still pretty decent shape, or?
They're probably about at a 75% level now. I know they're in the CIP somewhere down the road trip, and I just don't remember what year, but
2 or 3
the
years.
membrane is starting to open up a little bit. You can tell they're getting a little sun damaged, frail on some of the stitching. We had a few holes, we patch them now, but we're at a level where the replacement of them is exactly what the manufacturer said we would be at, so they're holding up to what they sold us.
Okay, yeah.
And I know.
25.
Yeah, Ken just found it in 2025, so.
Yep.
Looks like in next year, so I was just wondering if I know we talked a little bit about it last year, and they look like they started, they were starting.
they're
to-
fading, yeah.
We get
Oh,
another
for
year,
sure.
good year out of them is all.
Yep, They're at that point now where by the end of this year, you're going to see a significant color change. Where
Right.
this year, putting them up this year, we're at about 50%. If you see a little area that was folded over that's never had sun.
Yeah.
And I think all in all, they're very nice. They're holding up to what we purchased, and I don't know if we could expect anything more than that.
Perfect, perfect.
All right, we'll move on to Signacast and Session 2 swim lessons.
Yeah, so very similar to the outdoor pool. Attendance numbers so far coming into the next session look pretty good. Session 1 for summer is ending tonight. It's actually going on right now. Heard some pretty good reviews about that. Next session starting next Monday along with the outdoor session, so.
So I'm going to jump in on Signacast real quick here. Brian and I met with the reps from Water Play who are supplying our play feature replacement. Met with her and Fisher Brothers, who's going to be doing the install as the various projects we have going on. So it was kind of a important afternoon for Brian and I as we're trying to lay out what project was going to happen when and make sure these contractors are going to be able to come in and get the work done. Right now, I'm happy to say we have everyone scheduled, and I was able to get confirmed with Safe Slides later this afternoon to get everybody a window that they can work within that will fall during our month shutdown. So right now, we're set to have everything ready to go, installed, work done, and be open by Tuesday after Labor Day. Now that's assuming there's no delays, if these contractors have issues somewhere else. But right now, I think Brian and I feel pretty good about where we're at with that schedule.
Good deal.
All right, moving on to parks and an update on Centennial Park.
Centennial, the good news is if you've driven by, the trusses have been installed. The roof is going on. We should still see some shingles maybe going up yet this week on the roof. The roof building framing is continuing to be worked on. The exterior siding, you should start to see either this week or next week, depending on how the roof install goes. Exterior doors will be installed. They're planning on this week yet. The overhead door installation will be next week. Then as far as the update on the contaminated soil, I talked with John Griffin today for an update. He's having troubles getting in touch with the DNR. I guess the DNR has had some turnover with who John would be dealing with, and it's two different entities. Just with it being summer, difficult time, busy time for everybody, he's having a hard time nailing down them so that they can approve of the plan that the city has in place. We're hopeful that this will happen next week, and then we'll be able to get back to work in short order. I know Wandra is itching to get back to work. They need something for their guys to do, and they want it to be this, and I think we all want it to be them to get going on that project.
Does the state have to come back on site and inspect, or is it just a matter of approving a plan?
From what I understand, it's a matter of DNR approving the plan we have in place, which is fairly simple. We're removing and bringing in fresh.
And everything's passed at the council level and everything else for the funding of it, so
Correct, yep.
there's no hangups on our side.
Nope.
Okay. Park staffing report.
Couple items here. Right now, we're at 4 seasonal employees. We were sifting through some applications, but I think late today we are able to finalize on an additional seasonal, someone that's worked for us in the past. So we are looking good there. And then have an update on the full-time position that'll be added in July. We have offered and accepted to Luke Bars, I believe is how he pronounces his name. So Luke was a part of the our original interview process when Charlie Cook retired. Kept in contact with Luke, let him know we were interested. He was equally interested. So Luke lives in Richfield, which is nice. So that's local. And he currently works for West Bend Park Rec and Forestry. So Steve's had a good time talking to his old pals in West Bend that we stole another one of their employees. So Luke, we're excited to get Luke. He of course has a CDL. He has a pesticide applicator certification, which is not something that everybody has, so we like it that he has that. He's also experienced climbing, trimming trees, bucket operator, and he has certs for both of those, and he has a BA in rec management from UW La Crosse. So us park and rec people always have, I'm not a grad from La Crosse, but we always respect the people that come from La Crosse. So Luke will be joining us beginning July 10th.
Excellent. Parks project report.
I'd like to kick the park project report off by thanking Dan Hummel and his, is it crew or is it family that Dan approached us about the tee pads for the disc golf. Said, hey, I got people that will spread the material if you can get it out there, and that was a no-brainer. So we arranged a date in pretty short order, and as you see, there's a picture of their handiwork in the packet. So I want to thank Dan and appreciate the volunteerism, and those tees needed it, and they look great. As far as other things we've been doing, you also see pictures of the Sawyer Park swing that was also donated by the VFW Post. Our crew put that in. We were able to get it installed in time for Memorial Day and the festivities. I think they did. I like the 3 pictures because it gives you an idea of the process that they go through. Obviously just quick glimpses of it. Bringing in the fresh mulch, so that looked really nice for that event. Doing a lot of work in preparation for Memorial Day. We always try to get the cemeteries cut and trimmed. I don't know that we got to every area of every cemetery, but we got the main areas just because as busy as the staff was, would have liked to had seasonals, more of them, and sooner. We didn't have that. So otherwise, early on in May, a lot of mowing, a lot of trimming. We're still behind on some trimming. Tree removals, as I've mentioned earlier. Brian, anything else you want to mention?
Nope, pretty much said it all. Just the dailies really consume a lot of our time, and the tree list did grow, and we are going to take advantage, maybe even this week yet, and knock 2 more off of that long list. Not super long, but some of them are quite big projects because they're leaning over a shed, a fence. Fence has to get removed, access to a lot of places, so we're going to try to put that ahead of some other things right now just because of what Mother Nature has given us some pretty dry weather, so we're going to take advantage of it.
And then some tasks we have coming up. I know we had some frost damage to the fences at Willowbrook. Not much, but enough to allow the pickleballs to get underneath the fences. So those pickleball players that are hopefully watching and listening out there, we do have a plan to correct that. It's just a matter of getting staff time and prioritize to get that done. So yeah, I want to throw that out there too.
Questions for Randy or staff? All right, let's talk about next month's meeting. What's everyone's availability for what would be July 5th? Or if you don't know, that's fine. We don't have Scott here either, so I don't know what his availability is, but
So communicate with me or Todd or Sarah.
I'm good July 5th.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, I'm good on the 5th.
I'm good.
Well, looks like
Everybody here.
we're having a meeting. Reminder that traditionally that is our park tour. So if there's locations you would like to see, certainly communicate that with the same people. off the top of my head, the areas I'd like to show us, I think Centennial Park, going there, I think that's a no-brainer. I would like us to go over to the rec center, continue the pickleball discussion. Mike Herman had an idea around the rec center where we could possibly do future pickleball. Admittedly, and Mike would admit it too, it's probably not the ideal location, but it is a location and at least a place for us to start the discussion. And then while we're at the rec center, we can maybe go inside and look at the golf simulator too. So if there's another location someone would like to see, Zach, just so you know, traditionally we have ended at the pool where Tyler used to make us pizzas. I don't know if it
Or
was
ice cream.
Or ice cream. I don't know if it was exactly Tyler, but we'll talk.
We can make something happen.
Sounds good.
Are you going to start that at 5:30, or do you want to start that earlier?
We could certainly start it earlier if people are able. You can start at 2 if you want. Maybe not that early, but.
Then we need a bank shot.
So we'll get back to you on that,
Yep.
and we'll get some input from Scott.
Can you go earlier?
Not that Scott is make or break, because everybody else, it sounds like, can make it here. But,
Yeah.
let's get some feedback. As of right now, I don't have any umpires for the Legion game that night at 7 o'clock. But I will keep searching and do my best.
If we are able to bump it up to say 5 o'clock, I mean, you should be able to make.
Yep.
Meeting
Okay.
session at least.
So we'll just keep in touch there.
I tend to talk a little less, and the meetings usually go a little quicker. So, no offense to anyone,
All right.
except for the golf simulator.
Commission requests. I'm going to kick this one off. Congrats to Aaron Cummings, son of our very own Sarah here, on his state record pole vault
Yeah.
and championship. It's absolutely awesome, Sarah.
It is.
And I was watching on my phone on the WIA's website and watching the X's and the O's and going back and forth, and I'm like, he made it. The other guy didn't. You know, so that was the extent of my watching, but it was pretty exciting even from there, so I can't imagine being there in person.
It's pretty awesome, I gotta say. Some of Mike's family.
I believe it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yep. Congrats as well to our, to Scott Helms and our Hartford High School varsity baseball team who qualified last night for the state tournament.
Nice.
Won in extra innings, and it was a big night for Hartford. Big night for Hartford there, so. Right.
They had a few big games. You know,
They
they
did.
beat seeds that they, on paper, shouldn't have beaten.
Right.
So that was good.
And I talked to Coach Oleshko today, and he expects them to get the lowest seed in the tournament. But he's not worried about whoever they face. He feels like they have the pitching to be able to compete with anybody. So we'll see. Any other commission requests tonight? Randy, I didn't bring this up during the CIP thing, but I feel like Viney Park has gotten dropped off the radar. And the fact that there's not even a mention of a study between now and 2028 kind of bothers me. The way the build-out of Western Hills has happened. And I have no idea where the park fund balance is that come from those development fees and whatnot, but if we're talking about pickleball courts, if we're talking about ball fields, if we're talking about space being needed and whatnot, I can't help but think that somewhere, we're in 2023, and we don't even have it on the radar for 2028 yet. And I feel like it needs to be at some point in time. We can't wait until 2028 to put this thing in the CIP. We just can't. Anything else? And I look for a motion to adjourn.
No motion.
Motion by Ken,
I'll second.
second by Dan. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.